Hello, and you're very welcome to another edition of the JMOD podcast. I'm John Wan, and of course, this podcast is sponsored by Orga.com. Use my promo code JMOD podcast to get 15% off on the website. And as you can see, John is sporting the Wicklow jersey he got recently, and Kev has the Antrim jersey behind him there. So they're two lovely jerseys. And if you want to get your hands on them, use my promo code, and you'll get yourself some lovely gear. So we're here today to talk about the weekend's games and the trials and tribulations. Teams went up, teams went down, and lots to talk about. So I'll start off with yourself, John. How's tricks?
Great, yeah, good. Hard not to be in good form after the week Wicklow had. So, I'll pass along with watching some good football. Attacking football was nice. It was a good weekend, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to be yourself, Kev? How's tricks?
All good. After watching I suppose the weekend resembles the DUP leadership presently. There was ups and there was been downs, and it's been turbulent. So let's get into it and see what exactly has happened.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like, and it was definitely an interesting weekend of action. I suppose before we jump into it all, we can kind of look at some of the big hitters, and suppose it'll be in talk points beforehand. But Kerry and Tyrone, before we do crack into it, that's a serious amount of goals scored by the Kingdom on Saturday night, John.
Yeah, it was Kerry at their best, especially in the first half. You could see they just pickpocketed Tyrone. They probably targeted. They know. I think I said it beforehand that Tyrone adjusting from a defensive game to try to go attacking. I just think Kerry were always going to pick a few holes in defence, and it's exactly what they did. But apart from Tyrone being woeful back there, Kerry were kind of back to what they do best. The ball moved from hand to foot as quick as you could ever imagine. It was as good as I've seen them kind of play for quite a while, and just hope to carry that through now for the next couple of weeks and next couple of months into the championship as well, because they're fabulous to watch when they're in full flow like that.
Yeah, definitely. And a comment on Tyrone's defence, Kevin. There's a lot to concern Brian Dewar, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of that department, look, when we look at the Kerry performance, the one thing for me is, John just said it, how quickly Kerry were able to get the ball from back to front. That's partly to do with what Kerry are being coached, but it's also to do with the fact that the pressure on the man doing that is limited. And if we remember back to that great All-Ireland semi-final, I think Paddy was over Kerry at the time, and Tyrone were under Hart in the sort of new era. The one thing that came through in that match was the pressure that Tyrone were putting on Kerry players, 2, 3, 4 men, 5 men around the ball. Yes, Hart had a defensive system, but it was the willingness and eagerness to put in a tackle. What really concerned me about Tyrone at the back was when they shipped a goal, or they shipped a second goal, there didn't seem to be any punch about Tyrone, the old punch, somebody standing up like Ricey or the Conor Gormley or, the Gavin Devlin or the Hub Hughes putting in a tackle. It was just, it was as if after about 5 minutes the game was over. Now, again, I'm not taking anything away from Kerry. And by the way, this game hasn't told us anything about Kerry because, again, I go back to the comment that I know I got a lovely comment during the week about Kevin's waffle and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Kerry's big issue is going to be the fact is when their defence is tested, how will they respond? And they weren't really tested. When you look at this game at the first water break, I think it was 3 goals and a point to 3 points. The game was basically over. By half time, I think it was 5 to 6 to 7 points. It was over. The cut and thrust of the game had gone. And for Tyrone, look, it's going to take time to get this balancing act between what Hart had in terms of defence and intensity, in terms of what Hart didn't have in his final 3 or 4 years, which was that attacking oomph that we wanted to see from Tyrone to bring them to the next level. Now, the only thing I would say is what really concerned me about Tyrone was they didn't have that cutting edge, that X factor that you would see with Ricey or Gormley or these guys. It just wasn't there. There wasn't pride in the jersey. I suppose that's the best way to say it. They went down there. Yes, the conditions weren't great. We've talked, at least in the last 2 podcasts, about them having to go down in the way that was travelled. And obviously Kerry have bought into that and said, look, in the first 10 minutes, we're going to attack these lads. And, you know, Tyrone never really responded back. It was all so methodical from Tyrone. Players were able to slip by each other. Paul Geaney comes for the 4th or 5th goal. He just strides by a lad. There's not even a hand put on him. There's not a body check put on him. There's not an elbow thrown in the match. I would love to see, is there many yellow cards in the game? You know, Tyrone just didn't have that, and that's concerning. Getting into the Ulster Championship for them, especially getting in against Donegal. The other big concern for me for Tyrone would be that, you know, Dara Canavan, and that fact, him going off early in the game, you know, Dara's one for the future, but he's somebody I thought could have brought a bit of difference to the Tyrone forward line this year. He's a bit of an unknown quantity at senior. Maybe that one guy that maybe is coming off the bench or is coming on to score you a goal or produce that bit of magic that could maybe turn the Ulster Championship for you. Obviously, that's a big worry for them. The other big worry is McKenna, Donnelly, Hart, you know, them. The last two guys mentioned, seasoned footballers, plus McKenna coming in this year. They really didn't stand up to the mark last weekend in Fitzgerald Stadium, and that's where you want to see a real leader stand up. So lots of problems coming out of it for Tyrone. I wouldn't just, at the minute, jump off the fence if I was Tyrone supporter and lose the plot. This is going to be a time issue for Tyrone, and it's going to be. It's not going to be solved this year. Let's put it that way. I said to you at the very start of this year, a good year for Tyrone would be an Ulster Championship. I still don't think they have it in them.
Yeah. Just on that as well, like sometimes you just don't know, because we were just saying off air there, like that because there's no league final, you don't know really where these teams stand and what they're going for. And for all we know, Tyrone, kind of going back even the basics, like they could have been using that week as a training week, preparing for championship. They might have even been thinking about Kerry in a league game. Now I know every game is important for them, and they're trying to build performances coming into a championship. But like you just don't know what they were up to. They could have been heavy legged. They could have been anything. Apart from their defence as well, that's obviously struggled. They need to go back to finding their focal point, and I'd be interested to see how McShane is coming along to get them back. Will be back in time for championship, because once he's back in that team, I can guarantee there'll be a different view on how they're going to go about their business as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And no doubt Tyrone will probably get their house in order for the championship. We'll wait and see now in about a month's time. So in Division 1, we had Tyrone against Kerry, Donegal against Dublin, Armagh against Roscommon, and Monaghan against Galway. So I suppose we were to talk about it, but to dip into the game, Tyrone and Kerry 6-16, Tyrone 1-13, and John McGrath, it wasn't a dream. This is reality.
This is it's dream football becoming reality for Kerry. The way they moved the ball was just incredible. They're so slick. Like I know we all gave out about Kerry last year when they tried to go a bit defensive and plan for later down the year. But we all love watching Kerry. I think in every county in the country, there's people just love watching Kerry because they're just slick. They move the ball better than any other team in their forward unit. Through the foot, through the hand, the off the ball, off the shoulder running. They're different gravy, and they proved that the other day. Now, granted, Tyrone were a shambles at the back, but like to go in, they went for the gung ho straight away. There was no kind of messing about clipping points to get warmed up. They went for the jugular early, as Kevin alluded to there. Like the 3 goals inside the first water break, and that kills off a game. But it's the manner and the way they went about it. They mean business. They didn't use it as a training session. They used it as we're preparing. Every step is a preparation for the championship, and not just the latter stage of championship. I'm sure they've unfinished business in Munster, and they're going to make sure that they would have stamped down straight away. But yeah, like everybody seems to have played well. Like Darren Moynihan really impressing again. Obviously Clifford doing his business. Sean O'Shea is linking everything. They just had an all-round package that everybody contributed handsomely. And look, it's very hard for Tyrone to lift it up. I know it's a bit of a trek for them, a bit of a difficult fixture, but I'm pretty sure they'll bounce back as well.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. And then the next game, you had Donegal against Dublin, and Dublin getting away with fixture here, 118 to 114, and probably a poor enough game of football, Kevin.
I would use the word controlled. Dublin were always in control of this game from start to finish. Whilst, the scoreboard mightn't have showed that, you always felt that Dublin had that wee bit of extra gear in them, that they always looked a wee bit more potent up front. Again, that axis of Kilkenny, Con O'Callaghan, Paddy Small, and then, with the scoreboard ticking with the points coming from Cormac Costello, was all important. I just want to mention a side point. I've always been a big fan of Colin Basquel. He played at wing forward last week for Dublin. If Dublin want to get the best out of their team in the coming years, they can't play Colin Basquel at wing forward. He is a brilliant centre half forward. He can even play in full forward. Kilkenny can play anywhere in that forward line. So I was a wee bit disappointed in his performance, if I'm honest with you. But generally, Dublin were very controlled, always in control of the game. Paddy Small got 1-2 from play. Again, a good performance from him. Stepped up with a real important goal, 5-7 minutes before half time. Donegal, on the other hand, they looked laboured at times. They looked under pressure. Dublin just looked, that bit more hungry. The only thing I'd say from a Donegal point of view is, again, for the fourth game in a row, the quality of performance from Patrick McBearty, especially early in the second half. I think he kicked 2 or 3 in a row from play. So that is a good plus sign for them. Michael Langan, again, showed signs of what he can deliver. I think he kicked not 2 as well. So, they got a goal late on, but really it was Dublin really won at a canter, maybe in third gear. It was really hard on listening to Mick Galvin then being interviewed after the game, telling us that Stephen Cluxon had been dismissed from the panel for the weekend to go and play club football. It just makes a mockery out of everything. So the embarrassment of riches for that particular squad for the game travelling up there. They're only in third gear. There's so much more to come. They ran 3 or 4 boys off the bench again who have come back in. Shane Carthy's back in. And a couple of younger lads who got run out earlier on in the league. So, they just have this conveyor belt of talent. They're still the team to beat. It's still that issue. How are you going to stop Kilkenny? Conor Callaghan kicks not 3 from play. Paddy Small's adding 1-2 to the scoreboard. And where Dean Rock isn't available, I think he's back maybe next week or the week after, Mick Galvin was saying. So, where he's not available, Cormac Costello's there. So, always in control. Donegal were always up against it. Fair play to McBurdy, stepped up to the mark, as I say. Again, wee bit disappointed. Ord McNeely didn't express himself a wee bit more in the game for them. But Dublin's still the team to beat. And they're still the ones that I think still only that proves, that sort of result with the players, the gears that were in and the players maybe that didn't bring to the game with them, given Michael Murphy was missing for Donegal. But Donegal are maybe just not on that level yet, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of work for Declan Bonner and the backroom team to do there. And in the next game, we had Armagh 117, Roscommon 11 points. And Kieran McGee's Division 1 football wrapped up for another year, John?
Yeah, and impressively as well. They just seem to be, they've been pushing for the last couple of years to try and play a bit of attacking football. They've been a bit ahead of the game compared to some of the other Ulster teams. And it's coming off from now. You can see the couple of years' effort there is really beginning to come through. Like they actually have an embarrassment of riches up front as well. When you go through their squad, you got 2 O'Neills, O'Sheen and Ryan, Stephen Campbell, Murnan, playing in there as well. Rory Grugan, there's some class acts. They're really, really important players as well. And they're actually they seem to be getting the best out of each of them now. While if you look back over Armagh teams over the last few years, you could have Grugan playing well one day, Rian O'Neill playing well another day, and they weren't really gelling. They were all kind of picking a different day to really shine. Now they just seem to be all performing. They're all linking up. They're all a part of it, and really impressive. Like in the game itself, like Roscommon got off to a decent start. I think it was 5 points to 1 going into the first water break, and then just Armagh just really put the foot down. They hit 1-5 without reply, and once they got that lead, it just didn't seem like they were going to give it up as well. They just kept that cushion of a gap throughout. Then it was 1-9 to 7 at half time, and then they just kept that gap there, 5 points pretty much the whole way through in the second half. Roscommon, I think I said it here last time I was on as well. I really like to look at their team though as well. Their forward unit are really, really good. They're impressive. The Murtas are impressive. Connor Cox, Donny Smith. The other thing is they don't seem to have like a real focal point, like a real go-to man. Like not necessarily somebody that has to go to every day, but it's someone that'll take off a bit of heat off somebody else around them. They've no really kind of big inside forward that they could really look to trouble defences with. But I'm sure they'll turn around. They'll come good as well in the Con Championship. They'll definitely fancy themselves to have a good right cut off that as well, even though they're another relegation to them.
Yeah, definitely, and a very impressive win for Armagh. They look like they're building series blocks there. And in the next game, you had Monaghan 121, Galway 217, and Kevin an intriguing encounter on Sunday. And Banty McEnany was looking slick.
Yeah, Tom was looking good from his time away in Portugal or wherever else he was on holiday. No, listen, 94th minute winner from Jack McCarran. Great to see Jack McCarran back. Boy has very, very talented feet. Maybe the last year or two, struggling with a wee bit of injury. Lovely footballer. And great to see him back. Great to see Monaghan, Monaghan put in a real gritty performance, John. Whether you can look at it two ways. One, Galway let this slip yet again. Or two, Monaghan outscored them. I think it's 1-3-0-1 in the last 7, 8, 10 minutes of the game to force extra time. So they were in the ascendancy. The momentum was with them. But, Galway, in fairness, travelling up to Clonus isn't easy. I didn't tip them going up there. But for 50, 55 minutes, they were the better team. And all of a sudden, they let this slip. And again, I'm going to go back to something I said a couple of weeks ago. Porry Joyce is going nowhere with this Galway team until he sorts out his goalkeeper. Who was the person that gives away the pass for Jack McCarran to score in the 94th minute? The goalkeeper gives away a simple pass. Brian Clough once said, if you don't know who your goalkeeper is, you shouldn't be in management. If a goalkeeper continues to give away stuff like that, cheap stuff, then you're going nowhere. Listen, Galway were, as I say, for 55 minutes the better team. Porrick will obviously take a lot of pluses out of that going into the Connacht Championship now against Roscommon. Yes, they've been dealt a severe confidence blow, if that's the best way to put it to you, but he'll be encouraged by the performance, by the way they started the league compared to the way they've ended the league. Stark difference. Okay, the quality of teams maybe a wee bit different, but for the first 10-15 minutes I was listening to the game on the radio. The challenges getting in from Galway, the hunger from them was a stark difference to how they started the league. For Monaghan, this year has all been about, I suppose, us looking at the post-McManus era. Connor's coming towards the end. Hopefully he doesn't go to the end for another 2, 3, 4 years. But who's stepping up to the plate? I always said to you that they're a bloody hard team. They work hard. They're hard to beat at home. Desi Ward stepped up and scored in all three. I think he was laying out at right corner back. Jack McCarran's obviously come in this year. Conor McCarthy, Niall Kearns. The list goes on. They're a good, hard, workmanlike team. Again, they're going into the championship here against Fermanagh with 3-4 quality games now under their belt. They've been competitive in each of them games. And you know what? They'll fancy a semi-final now against Armagh. They'll really be looking at against that one against Armagh. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And word on the street, checkered shirts are flying in Monaghan after Banty wearing one Sunday, Kev.
He got it from Primark. When Primark reopened, he was the first in the queue, apparently. Give somebody a bribe.
Brilliant stuff. And moving on into Division 2, Cork 3-22, Westmeath 25 points. What a game of football, John.
Yeah, plenty of scoring, and Kevin's friend John Heslin again, just popping up time and time again. Another 12 points. It's the man's just incredible. Like he's just doesn't seem to know when to kind of stop clipping the ball over the bar. Pretty impressive going by him alone. Yeah, the game was strange from what I saw of it. Westmeath, decent first half. I think 14-12 at half time. You'd like to look at Westmeath having it cut off it. But then Cork introduced two fabulous footballers. Mark Collins came on and Brian Hurley, and that completely changed the game. Hurley kicked 1-4. Mark Collins hit 1-1. I think it was within the space of maybe 10 minutes of coming on, the two of them had scored a goal each. Luke Connolly as well. Oh no, Brian Hurley actually was near the end, but Luke Connolly came into play then when the two of them come on as well. And they just started to play a lot better. They just seem to have a better forward unit. And you can't beat a bit of experience coming on at that stage. And Westmeath just struggled to just keep them at bay. They say the old goals win games, and it just turned out that way. Westmeath just couldn't break through. Like 25 points is pretty impressive scoring to be hitting, but Cork rattling in 3 goals, and look, deserved as well. I think they again, I think Cork will be looking forward now to try and make it up for their defeat in the Munster final last year. So they'll carry that through with a lot of positivity going into the championship too.
Yeah, definitely. Seriously impressive scoring in that game. In the next game, you're down 2-19, Laois 2-12, and Down aren't going down, Kev.
No, and this is a monumental win for Down. Monumental, and I mean that. A county as proud as them, the year that they've had, and the difficulties he's had, and the way that they started the league. Look, the league was never going to be easy for them going away to Mayo. And then the way they really capitulated to Meath, as I said, they haven't listened to that game, and sort of going down to Westmeath and getting that decent victory for them, not having a home advantage in any games, and then having a real difficult start in the Ulster Championship against Donegal. It didn't really look great for them maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and I was quite critical of Paddy Talley. I'll still stick to my guns and say that he doesn't suit them. An offensive game doesn't suit Down. Moving forward, look, in this game, it didn't look good for them at half time. They were 1-7-6 down, and they put it out of the bag in the second half. Again, it's the old regulars, it's the Paul Devlins, it's the Guinnesses that are stepping up to the mark for them. Again, the problems at the back. They've conceded. Okay, they've won out in the game, but I mean, when you concede 2-12, I think it was. In this game, so 2-12, yeah, okay, they kicked 2-19, but when you're going in against a team against Donegal and you're looking at conceding 2-12 or whatever else, you're not going to be at the races against a better quality team. So, look, the good thing for Down, if you had offered them at the start of the year that they would stay in this league and that would be their league done, yes, they would have took it. They now go in the championship game against Donegal. Personally, even though it's in the marshes, I really don't give them a chance, and I really think that next year will be another hard put at them unless they change management, in my opinion. So look, fair play to them to stay up, achieved their goal for this year, but it ain't going to get any better, and the long-term prospects looking pretty bleak at the minute. Yeah,
absolutely, and definitely a tough game in the championship coming up ahead. And in the next game, Clare 2-18, Mayo 2-22, and very brave battle by Colin Collins' men, John.
Yeah, Colin Collins is just continuing to impress every time he puts his team out. They just don't shy away from anything or anyone. He just seems to have a heart of a lion, and he seems to put that through into every single one of his players. And that's exactly what they performed the other day. They were behind at one stage, maybe 6-7 points, but they just kept battling. They grabbed 2 goals in the third quarter. They just wouldn't lie down. They wouldn't accept it. They just kept battling through and through. Again, Owen Cleary picking up another 8 points. Tuberty coming a bit deep the other day, getting them plenty of ball, clipping in with 3 points. They just seem to be really impressive, and it's just great to see them performing against the big teams, and Mayo are a big team. And it's funny, like when we talk about Kerry at their best going forward, Mayo, like, they might not have the swagger of Kerry going forward, but by God, it's not for lack of trying. The other day, they did 12 scores, and they're going to rack up scores when you have players in your defence with like Paddy Durkin, Stephen Cohen, Lee Keegan, Oisin Mullen. They just want to burst out, get up the field. They're all clipping points during the game. So they're going to be real hard stopped, like, going forward. The performance they won in, I'm sure they're going to be disappointed now with news of Killian O'Connor. That's not going to be helped them in any way. Like, he still was clipping in 1-4 in the first half. You take that out of the team, where they're going to turn to, but they just seem to have it all over the pitch. They just come from every single angle that you can think of on the pitch. Look, Clare dealt with it as best they could, and they really tried hard. But yeah, they just that little bit of class and a bit of experience came through in the day as well.
Yeah. And is that a worry for Mayo going into the championship? Kevin, conceding 2-18. I know Clare are flying, but if they want to be competing for an All-Ireland title this year, they need to be beating Clare more comfortable than that, I suppose.
You would think on the face of it, yes, but listen, let's get real. The game was over at half-time, 2-13 to 0-8. James Horan sort of withdrew. The O'Connor brothers took the foot off the gas. I'm not trying to be derogatory here to Clare in any way, because the way they came back and the spirit they showed and the talent that they have is, as John rightly alluded to, is brilliant. But, you know, let's not masquerade the fact they sort of took their foot off the gas at half time. They were looking more long term. Yes, they don't want to be conceding that amount, but realistically, for me, Mayo will be in an All-Ireland semi-final this year. I think that they're the best team out west. I think that, yes, Galway may challenge them. Roscommon, Galway may challenge them, but I would fully expect them to be in an All-Ireland semi-final this year. I like one or two of the new lads I brought in. This guy Ruan in the middle of the park is a real good find, real good footballer, real athletic lad. You know, he can do a bit of damage for them over the next couple of years. So, look, they're in a wee bit of development as well, but no, I'm not too concerned about the result. They got the job done. They got out of there, and they'll move on, and I still think that the strongest squad out west.
Yeah, 100%. And the next game, you had Kildare 1-14, Meath 14 points, and dirty enough game, Kevin.
How much better does it get for Dublin? You know, in terms of their two nearest competitors, in my opinion, and they lose probably three. This game was all about the three players that went off. Forget about league football. You know, let's look towards the championship. Meath lost Brian Manton and Donald Keoghan in each half. And Kildare lost Kevin Feely as well, who's a real concern for them, losing a couple of weeks out of the championship. So, look, this is the game that you were looking at either team who is the closest going to come to Dublin. Really, at times, Kildare were rip-roaring. You know, they were 10 points ahead at one stage. You know, and they were much the more superior team. Again, that whole Newbridge factor, Kildare factor coming into play. They got an early goal, which was highly important to them in setting up. Meath were abysmal again in this first half. We've talked about Meath before being Jekyll and Hyde. I think the week before against Mayo were the Jekyll and Hyde. They scored maybe 6 points in the first half. They scored 4 points in the first half. You know, any team that has ambitions in the future of maybe taking on a Dublin or even a Kildare, you can't just have the scoreboard operator, you know, busy 4 times in a half. You've got to keep it ticking. Obviously, it picked up for them after Luke Flynn was dismissed with 15 minutes to go. But the good thing about Kildare is this is where they want to be. Jack O'Connor's trajectory and his having come into the job is upward. They're a wee bit last year, a wee bit inconsistent in the league. Look where they are now, back in Division 1. Nobody's going to fancy going to Newbridge. They had an under-21 team maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, John, that done really well. So hopefully they're seeing some of them guys coming through. As for me, you know, again, that focus on you can't be a Jekyll and Hyde performer. You just can't come with the last 15 minutes when you're 10 points down and make a game of it. So I'm sure Andy McEntee's quite frustrated at that. But for me, Kildare are now, after this, listen to this game for 55, 60 minutes, Kildare are the only team that can put it up to Dublin for 15, 20, 25 minutes in the Leinster Championship.
I was hoping you were going to say longer there, Kev.
No.
That's where we're at, unfortunately. And of course, guys, this podcast is sponsored by Retro.com. Use my promo code JMACPodcast to get 15% off on the website. And as you can see, John wearing his Wicklow jersey and Kev sporting the Antrim jersey in the background there. Division 3, you had Cavan against Wicklow, Derry against Limerick, Offaly against Fermanagh, and Longford against Tipperary. No better man to ask. Cavan against Tipperary. John, you're delighted.
Yeah, very happy. It's a massive result for Wicklow, and it really can't be underestimated how important it is to stay another year in Division 3, because we've been a long time in Division 4. We got out once. We won a league in 2012, and that year, the following year, 2013, went straight back down. So to get another year, it will be huge for development. Now, taking down Ulster champions will also be huge as well, because that gives everybody an opportunity now and a bit of hope to think like that no matter who we face, that there's a bit of an edge that they can go and take it on. I think on Cavan first, it's probably underestimated as well, like that how difficult it is for a team that's not used to playing in the latter stage of the championship. It's very hard to back it up a second season, and I think that I don't think a lot of people are saying that it's overconfidence by Cavan. I think can also go down to just a little bit of fatigue. They're not used to getting to the latter stages of the All-Ireland, so it's hard to back that up a second year. But when you go out and perform the way they did as well, they don't really deserve to be really staying up either. Like when you go through their team, I really think Tom Galligan was probably the only one that backed up anyway of his performance from last year during the game at the weekend, and kind of what sums it up for me probably the most. And like I actually played with Martin Riley as well in DIT, and he was so energetic, and he just wanted to get on the ball so much and tackle so much. But about 15 minutes into the game last week, now I know he's around a long time, it could be his legs, but seeing a guy just kind of within 5 yards of him kind of waltzing around with a ball and Martin not even bothering to tackle, that kind of summed up for me where Cavan were at. Now, again, there could be excuses for that, but usually the Martin I know, he's buzzing at every opportunity he can. But yeah, with Wicklow, they were just from the off, they got going 3 points to nothing straight off in the first 5-10 minutes. They conceded then, I think it was 4 points, it came to 4-3, and then coming in then they got a goal, Pat O'Connor breakthrough, and it was a smashing goal, well worked. And it was great. It gave them a bit of hope to carry through then up to the half time, and it kind of was nip and tuck, a couple of points here and there to half time, and went in at half time and was it 1-5 to 8, happy with a point up. And then you kind of come out in the second half and Cavan hit the first 2, and here you go thinking then that here we go, Cavan are going to kick off in gear, and it was completely the opposite. 5 minutes into that second half, just after Cavan kicked 2 points, Shawnee Furlong sticks a classic Shawnee goal, just in behind the defender, wins the ball, and bottom corner like Shawnee has done over and over and over again for the last 12, 13, 14 years. But what really kind of stood to me then for the next 10 or 15 minutes was how brave Wicklow's approach was. Shawnee won a mark about 30, 35 yards out, and they were 3 points up, and that's generally take every point you can get at that stage for Wicklow for against Ulster champions. But their approach, Shawnee went short, and I don't think I've ever seen Shawnee go short of a free that was kickable. And to put it short, to go for the juggler, just really summed up how brave they were on the day. Like where Darcy won the penalty and Shawnee stuck it, and they rode it out from there. I know Cavan fought back, and it looked a little bit dodgy coming in for the last 5. But there was lads crippled on the ground. You could see 2 Wicklow lads down with cramps or injuries. They were still getting up. They had to push one up into the full forward line because no more subs to make. So it was kind of real heroic performance, but just brave performance is the thing that really stood out to me. And look, Jesus, I'd say that the confidence they'll have now for next few weeks going into the Leinster Championship will be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about yourself, Kev? Not great stuff for the boys in blue.
I think the words that Mickey Graham used himself say it all. I don't think I can say much after this. Calamity. An absolute calamity of a league for Cav. I talked to you earlier on about trajectory, about momentum being so big words in sport. Cavan now are on a downward trajectory. The momentum is not with them. They have to go to possibly the hardest ground in the Ulster Championship this year in Tyrone. And that's going to be really, really... I don't know where they go from here, John. I really don't. This season has been a disaster. They now find themselves going in, even next season, being affected by not good games in the league. So I don't know where the next step is for them, but an absolute calamity. Can't believe it. I actually can't believe how bad this year has been for them.
Yeah, 100%. And word on the street, I think Conor Moynihan apparently was back doing fitness tests last week, but it just seems a bit too little too late. And Mickey Graham wants back to Bullinyochta, with the sounds of it as well. So it's the thing seems to be crumbling in front of our eyes, unfortunately. But I don't know, we'll just have to regroup for the championship and hope we can pull a rabbit out of the bag. But I still think if we do manage to somehow beat Tyrone, I still think there's serious questions need to be asked, because you can't be getting relegated from Division 3, simple as going down to Division 4. So there's a lot of soul searching to be done in Cavan for the next couple of weeks ahead. And in the next game, you had Derry 17 points, Limerick 13 points, and Derry are flying, Kevin.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, look, they're up. Brilliant. I would say this performance was not exactly riveting for Rory Gallagher. They grounded out. I said before this game, Limerick would stick with them for 40, 50 minutes. They actually done that. Limerick are a very difficult team to play against. This wasn't the rip-roaring Derry that we'd seen over the past 3-4 weeks, free scoring, 5, 6, 7 men getting forward, the lovely forward-playing football, Conor Glass stamping his authority all over games. This was a much more tighter affair, and I think Rory will be happy with the guts that they showed and how they ground out the result. Look, it was a dour enough affair for them, and I suppose, like, when you look at the stats of the game, obviously Shane McGuigan again kicks not 6, but 5 of them are from frees. Ciar McFall gets on the board again. Benny Hearn kicks not 3. Really great to see him back playing. But I think it was 8-5 at half time. At one stage, Limerick went down to 14 men. And Derry sort of pull away a wee bit in the third quarter. Workmanlike performance, exactly what Derry needed. Look, as I said to you, their year at the start of the year was get up a league. Again, they've probably got Donegal coming to face them in the championship, which will be a hard task. But Derry are a common team. They needed the confidence under their belt. They're on the upward trajectory. 4 wins, 3 of them free scoring. This one ground out. Good character. Couple of kids blooded back into the team. A couple of kids coming up from minor. Look, I'm going to say this, John, a year out. I really expect Derry to give Division 2 a real shot next year. They've a bit of strength and depth coming through. They've done a bit of work underage. And, it's going to be really good to see. But job done. Nothing fancy about it. So onwards and upwards for them.
Yeah, definitely. And Rory Gallagher is picking up serious momentum going into the championship. And in the next game, he had Offaly 114, Fermanagh 12 points. And this Offaly machine keeps rolling on, John.
Yeah, it does. And it's it's exciting to think about next week's game against Derry. I know Kevin said Derry expects Derry to win it. But I don't know. I like this Offaly team. I like the look of it. I like John Maughan, what he's doing. I like the balance of the team they have. I like the fact that they have some really important players coming off the bench and closing out games. They just seem to have a lot going for them at the moment. Not to mention they have a sponsor jumping in the back of them that'll help them out as well. And there's a lot of a buzz going on in Offaly there, especially with the hurlers going well as well. Like this game, it was Offaly got off to a good start, and by half time they were 10-3 or 10-4 up. And obviously Owen Donnelly got sent off just before half time, and whether that Maybe gave them a little bit of a kick up the hole that they needed for Manic out in the second half, and with Sean Quigley kicking a few points, a few from frees. They kind of dragged themselves back into it, but I think Offaly just had enough in their artillery there to just keep them at arm's length. Like when you go through them, like they have some really impressive forwards, Offaly. Like, and they want to when you're keeping Niall McNamee on the bench, no matter what age he is or how he feels. If his performances are good, you'd imagine he's still playing. But the fact that Bernard Allen's still flying it there, Rory McNamee, and Keane Farrell is back in the team there. I don't know where he was for the first few games. I didn't see too much of him. And he's straight back in. He's kicking 7 points. And that's really interesting to see now for the summer how he'll come on. They just have a nice balance. Shane Harron as well is going well for him. I know he's a Crokes player here in Dublin. And he just gives them a lot of energy around the middle third then as well. I fancy them kind of coming in next week, kind of under radar. A lot of people thinking Derry will win this one and only league final that we get to watch next week. But I like the look of Offaly. I think they could have a good cut off them. But for Mana, it's hard to know where they lie now as well. Coming into the championship, a bit of a mixed bag for them. Like really, I really can't really say too much other than they're still relying on Sean Quigley there to get them over the line with scores. But defensively, they seem to be decent enough. But I think they have a lot of work to do going into the Ulster Championship.
Yeah, definitely. And in the next game, you had Longford 113, Tipperary 9 points, and Tipperary suffering the same fate as Kevin, and not good stuff once again.
Speechless, absolutely speechless. Where do you start? Longford were on a couple of drubbings already this year. Fair play to Park Davis, he came out and he said, he thinks Division 3 is where Longford are. I think that's their level, and fair play to him. He started his stall out there. What I liked about his team was the urgency that they showed, the urgency in the tackle, the urgency. They started the game well. They went about this task. They led from start to finish. Tipperary were methodical about it. It was as if they didn't even care about it. Conor Sweeney being the shadow of a man he was last year. Michael Quinlivan the same. Quinlivan, I think, got sin-binned in a crucial period just before halftime, just after halftime. So, I mean, that again doesn't help them. Brian Fox didn't start. He was a really influential player for them last year. Only come on. And by the way, their urgency, in this game only really triggered when Fox come on. So, I mean, like chalk and cheese. 2 different years, chalk and cheese. It's not what we want from Tipperary, but really concerning. On the flip side of that, look, the pride that Longford showed, give them credit where credit's due. And, they'll stay in the league. Again, it'll be an uphill task for them next year. Probably like it will be for Wicklow and Antrim, if I'm honest with you. But when your team shows pride like that, when they show the urgency that they did, from the very first minute RT really went to the match, it was quite obvious that Longford were up for this game and Tipperary couldn't care about the game. So they've got their just desserts, and Tipperary, I don't know what we say about them. It's just, it baffles the mind, them and Cavan, really, how the last 6 months has gone for them.
Yeah. And absolutely, I suppose to ask you this question, John, and like word on the street is Cavan, we're not taking the league seriously. We've thrown the championship. Maybe Tip aren't taking the league seriously. They've Kerry in the championship. So, John McGrath, are you Albert Einstein? Would you be able to answer that question for me?
Sorry, what was the question?
Oh no, I was just remarking on Tipperary having Kerry in the championship. If they didn't take the league seriously, it's a bit odd. Cavan have thrown in the championship. We didn't take the league seriously. So, try work that one out for me.
I just think Cavan were beat by a better team on the most important day of the year. So whether you take it important or not, the results are there, and the results say that Wicklow are still Division 3 and Cavan are Division 4 and Tipperary are Division 4 and Longford Division 3. But yeah, look, it like as I alluded to earlier, it goes to me. It looks like Tipperary and Cavan are both not used to being in the latter stage of the championship. And there can be a lot. You see a lot of teams, even after we say winning our Ireland's, it takes them a bit to get going in the league the following year. I suppose Dublin kind of can usually play their second or third squad and do all right, but it's just kind of, I think it's commonly known that it's hard to back it up a second year when you're not used to being there. And it just looks like that with Tipperary, especially I know Tipperary had quite a few injuries as well, and they wouldn't have the strength and depth there, the likes of the way Kerry would, or the way even Cork would, even though Cork aren't a fantastic team, they have backup for the positions that they need. Tip are probably on a low number, like the hurlers are taking everything they can get there. Cavan, yeah, of course we expect more, but they just couldn't back it up. And look, I'm sure Cavan will bounce straight back up out of there. I would be a little bit worried for Tipperary down Division 4. I'm not quite sure that they'd bounce straight back up, but I'd be fairly confident Cavan comes straight back up in the first attempt as well. So you won't have too long down there.
Well, we can't go any further down anyway, John. So we have to, unless to make a Division 5.
Yeah, well, look, it's at least if the first 3 or 4 games don't go well in the league, then you can really start focusing on the championship. You don't have to worry about the relegation.
McGrath, how the tables have turned at the start of this year. We were all Division 4, and now I was in Division 4. Look, and then this guy's Division 3. How the times have turned. Huh?
Yeah. No, the future looks good. And I tell you, in particular in Wicklow's case, there's actually there's a lot of young bodies coming through there. Like Wicklow have done very well to hold on to a few of their kind of guys that have been around for the last few years, and I think the benefit of that they've got out with some of the young guys there is really, really crucial. Like the spine of the team is experienced, but the guys on the wings are actually really, really good. So yeah, we look forward to next year now, and hopefully try and hang on to Division 3 and maybe see if we can push another level up as well. So
yeah.
So
I'm impressed by the manager, Davy Burke, as well, John, and obviously I think Liam Hassett's involved. So that's serious men to have involved in that Wicklow team.
Yeah. The minute I heard David Burke getting that job, I was delighted. I like the sounds of a young fella going in, and every time I hear something being said about him, I just get a little bit excited. He seems to be ticking all the right boxes. He just seems to be going about his business the right way. He doesn't say too much, but he says enough to keep everybody on their toes. Training, the guys just seem to be football orientated, and I know from playing there for long enough, it wasn't always football related. It was a lot of having to slog it out and think we weren't fit enough, and it was all fit, when really it comes down to football at the end of the day. And David Burke just seems to be that, and obviously Mike Hassett's going to add a lot of experience to that setup there, and not to mention Gary Jemison as well from Mickletown. He's conditioning coach there. He's really, really impressive as well. So they seem to be just getting the act together there. And it looks good for the future.
Yeah, what a team Wicklow are. I never would have wrote them off. And then and in Division 4, you had Carlow against Louth, Waterford against Antrim, and Sligo against Wexford. First game, Carlow against Louth. Mickey Hart's on a roll, 123, Carlow 115. Kevin, what did you make of it all?
Yeah, I said to you going last week that I expected Mickey Hart to win this game, Gavin Devlin to win this game. Again, this is typical for just coming away from the game a second. You know, the Mickey Hart bounces there, the enthusiasm, just what John's talking about there, you know, a guy coming in, young guy, okay, coming into Wicklow and his first year, enthusiasm, bringing in good guys around him, bringing in good strength and conditioning. The guys are buying in, the older guys, the younger guys. The exact same has happened with Mickey Hart. This first year come in, he's made them really competitive. Good win over Sligo at home. Antrim were lucky just to pep them at the post. You know, they're up a league now, you know, and it's going to be really interesting to see what Mickey Hart does for them. Going down to Carlow maybe a year, 2 years ago for Louth, we all would have been probably saying, no, it's probably just beyond them. They've got that confidence about themselves. Mickey's getting in, real big name, real big project. To score 123, by the way, in a game, he'll be really happy with. To concede 115, he'll not be so happy with. So he's a bit of work to do yet. The big issue now for Mickey is he's got Awfully, I think, in the first round of the Leinster Championship the week after next. I'm nearly certain it's Awfully. So that could be maybe a task too far. So, you know, he's done what he had to do with Louth this year. Next year's going to be the real interesting thing for Louth and how much they've developed the team. Can they, as John talked very adequately about playing for Wicklow, I've seen it myself with Antrim. You go up a league, you come straight back down. So maybe Mickey next year will begin focusing on the league. But a good win going down to Carlow. A team, again, just saying with Carlow, wee bit regressed this last 2-3 years. Unfortunately, you know, the great heights under Turlock and Stevie, good wins in the championship, but they haven't been competitive really all year. The other thing is the system didn't really help them. You know, only them 2 games and it wasn't really competitive. Louth had 3 real competitive games get into this one, so we've been unfortunate for Carlow. We've bit of work to do down there, but fair play to Mickey.
Yeah, definitely. And next game, you'd Waterford 11 points, Antrim 115, and John, Antrim's on the up.
Yeah, they are, and I'm sure very, very happy about it as well because Enda McGinley, what he's done there is very impressive. I just think he seems to be the same as what Davy Burke has got with Wicklow and the same what Mickey Hart's got. He's got a bounce from a group of players there, and the crucial thing he did the same thing. He kept the experienced players alive, and look, that's valuable when you have a young squad coming through. Waterford themselves as well. I don't really know where they're at the moment. You just always expected Antrim to do the business in this game, and it's exactly what they did. They kept it alive from the very start. They just went ahead from day one, winning 8-2, 8-1, 8 points to 1 up. Game was over, and the Rebs just go at their leisure. Waterford, I think, are just in a little bit of trouble there at the moment. Like they like Carlow a few years ago, they had a bit of a decent push in Division 4. Really troubled teams for maybe a 2-year spell, but it seems to have just dropped off that again, and I think they're in a bit of trouble now. But I bet Antrim are really excited about going up, because the one thing I always found about Antrim was whether they're in Division 4, Division 3, they always competed. They always got a few wins in Division 3 as well. They were just unlucky to come out of it on a couple of occasions. I think ran Eastwood hitting 1-5 last day as well. He probably has looking forward to his summer going forward. Like if you have him and McBride's in the team, Conor Murray, I'm sure they're going to trouble. Now is just a bit of a bonus for them for the year.
Yeah, definitely, without a shadow of doubt. And Kevin, yourself, Antrim, they're on the up.
Yeah, I think John articulated well the similarities between his own county and my own county at the minute. New manager in, very professional, says very less. I personally couldn't play for Enda. I don't think he's too strict for me. There'd be no pints after sessions or anything like that. So it would all be too strict for. But listen, he's got everybody buying in. He's got everybody there. Fair play to them. They came out of a tough day against Louth, first day out. You know, they've unearthed a couple of new players. You know, John's articulated there about Orn Eastwood. My big issue with Orn is he's a lovely wee footballer. He's maybe suited to Division 4 at the minute. Big test comes for him next year in Division 3 when the step-ups come and he's maybe not getting enough room. And John's 100% right in terms of Antrim. Yes, they'll go into the game here against Armagh in the Championship. Probably Armagh getting a better quality game, getting that wee bit of momentum staying in Division 1 this year. You know, the big issue for Antrim will be they're going to get 4 or 5 real quality games next year in Division 3 football, and that is really going to see the progress of them. They have an excellent balance of youth and experience at the minute, but really next year is going to be the acid test for them, having to go to Wicklow, you know, welcoming, you know, Longford up to Corrigan Park, you know, then having to go down to Laois. That'll be a real good test for them next year. So, job, a bit like Derry, job done. Next year, much bigger test.
Yeah, absolutely. And fair play to all involved in Antrim GA. It's absolutely brilliant stuff for themselves. And then the last game of the weekend, you had Sligo 9 points, Wexford 215. And John, Wexford have won a game of football.
Yeah, they have. I tell you what, it's a bit of a baffling game as well. I said it earlier there about you don't know what way teams are preparing this week or this for this game. I'm not sure. I'm not overly convinced Sligo are really prepared for this game. I know there's a shield on it, but I just can't believe really that Sligo were that dour, and they were dour. Like Wexford racked up 215. Now I better be careful what I say. Wicklow had Wexford in the first round of the championship, and last year we beat them in the last league game, and we beat them in the first round of the championship. That can all turn its head now in a few weeks when we play them in the Leinster Championship again for the first time. But they haven't been racking up scores at all in the last 3 games. Shane Roach stepped in there, and he's a good lad. I think very young as well. He's 33, maybe 34. Difficult role for him to step into after Paul Galvin stepped away. But I'm sure with a bit of time they'll come good. But I'm just not overly convinced on how Sligo went about that game to kick just 9 points. They just didn't sound like they were in any way competitive at any stage of the game from 0 to 70. I have my doubts on how they're prepared on it because I think they're better than that. I think with their management set up there, McEntee, I think they wouldn't bend over like that. They shouldn't be bending over like that. So I just think they'd their eye on further down the field, and they're probably preparing for a kind of championship and maybe trying to pull a fast one at someone there in Connacht and try and pull the wool over them in the first round maybe. But
if it was a horse race, John, there would have been a Stewart's inquiry straight after.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. But and look, don't take anything away from Wexford. I mean, as well, like because like they still went about their business and got a job done, and they can say now they have a shield at the end of the year. Fair play, they won something, like, and that's a good start for Shane Roach and the team. Like when you go through it as well, they actually have some really good players. And it's good to see Ben Brosnan's actually back in the core at centre forward for them. He played the last few games in the corner, I think, and didn't have too much joy from what I gather. Like he's a big player for them. Like, but Dolly Waters is still their main man in the middle after being there for a long time. If you can get another bit out of him, I'm sure he's going to cause Wicklow trouble in a few weeks too. Like so, they'll have a lot of confidence going into it now, into the Leinster Championship game. At least they have that, a big win for them. Like.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose to wrap up, lads, in a word, who would you be thinking for this weekend then? Offaly against Derry, Kevin?
Me and John are going to disagree here. I understand. Look, he does make really good points. Mahon's teams are fit. They've got an excellent blend of youth and experience. They've got good guys coming off the bench. But look, Derry are just oozing class at the minute. They really are. They really impressed me in the first couple of games. Free scoring, yes. No disrespect to the other teams that we're playing against, but maybe weren't on their level. Last weekend, they showed that bit of grit without really oozing the class. The only concern for me at Derry would be they need to shore up a wee bit in the full back line, but elsewhere, they're a really improving team. They're really strong right up the pitch. And I personally think that they've too much class for Offaly, if I'm honest with you. And I think that if Conor Glass gets on game, that guy can just control this match, and I don't think Offaly have anybody to match him. But can I just say this? Fair play to the both counties for agreeing to this. Fair play to them for for going over the GA's head. John Mahon's one of these guys who's a manager. You say to him, fair play to you. Forget about the championship next week. It's about getting guys games, getting game time, going in there with the momentum. And do you know what? They're getting their day out in Croke Park. There's going to be 2,400 fans. When's the last time Offaly were playing a half-decent game in Croke Park? 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Same with Derry. It's great for them. Fair play to them.
Yeah, 100%. And John, what about yourself? Offaly against Derry this weekend?
Yeah, I do agree. Derry are a better team at the moment. They do look a lot steadier. They have incredible defence already set up. Midfield, they're obviously direct, very running formulated midfield partnership. And look, they have Shane McGuigan up front as well. He does use his class as well. And obviously Gallagher is going to get the best out of him. And I've no doubt that he's aiming for silverware as well. He wants to win. He wants to get them into the habit of winning silverware. But I just think I'll go with Offaly just because I just think there's a little bit in them. They're probably it probably won't be there won't be as much expectation on them to win, which might hamper Derry maybe a little bit when they're not actually used to it as well. So I'll go with Offaly just to keep it a little bit of competition in it. But like Offaly getting back into Croke Park, I'm sure they'll love it as well. Like, and when you have a bench as well that come on, and I think credit has to go to Mohan. And the bench have come in and they've turned each and every game. Like they didn't do what Derry have done in their group there, where Derry won at a canter in most games. They won easily, and that's a good sign. But also a good sign is Offaly have come from, I won't say from behind, but they've been 50-50 shots going into the last 10 minutes of most of their games. And they've come through, and the bench have really delivered in that. But yeah, I give him an outside chance of causing that upset. Yeah,
he must be due down in Tullamore for a weekend or for a few pints. That's that plan.
I'll avoid it there for a while. I suppose I'll go there before I go to Cavan, though, I think.
You're welcome anytime, John. You're welcome anytime. Just don't bring Johnny Furlong with you.
Bring your own euros to Cavan. You'll need them.
Just don't bring Johnny Furlong with you, John. You'll be all right.
No, yeah.
And then to wrap it up, lads, Kevin McGurdy, your player of the week and moment of the week.
Do you know what? I'm going to go for player of the week is Sean O'Shea. He coming back into a bit of form. He's so important for Kerry. Paul Geaney came into a bit of form. So, yeah, I'm going to go for Sean O'Shea. Really impressed with him. I think he was the most impressive player overall for Kerry. I'm not getting away with Geaney's class or Clifford's class or the overall, class of Kerry, but him generally, regardless of what he done on the scoreboard, bringing other people into play, his free taking, his work rate, his commitment. Moment of the week. Gotta be that goal in the Kerry game against Tyrone. There's a similarity between Niall Morgan and David Marshall this week, as both of them ended up in the back of their net in very embarrassing circumstances. What a way to put the ball in the net in the Fitzgerald Stadium. So yeah, I'll go for the goal, Gavin White's goal.
Yeah, and yourself, John, player of the week and moment of the week.
Yeah, there's only one man getting it. There's only one man getting it from me. Look, Shawnee, we just have to kind of really clear up about what Shawnee Furlong is as well there in Wicklow, like that. Shawnee's been playing, I think, since 2008. He's the same age as I am, and he's still going, and he's still doing the exact same thing as he was doing when he was 20 years of age. He's sticking close to goal, and when the ball comes within his zone, it's his, and he's still racking up scores. Like, he has this ability he could be held out of a game for 30, 40, 50 minutes, and he still has that ability to win a game for you. And that's what he done the other day. Like, look, to be honest, in the first 3 games of the league, he wasn't standing out. He was finding it difficult against Division 3 defences. He wasn't getting them much ball, and he wasn't getting too many scores. But when you give him that chance, he's still alive. He has that concentration levels to put a team to bed, like. That's what you obviously seen. That's what he did at the weekend. It's just all credit to him to be still going out.
He definitely seen it all right, John. He definitely seen it.
And to be honest, moment of the weekend as well, I have to give to the exact same player. It was the bravery in what he showed with a mark that he should have clipped over the bar from 30 yards, right in front of the goals, pretty much right in front of the goals. And to have the bravery to just clip it to Darcy on the edge of the square, who won the penalty. For me, that's a moment that just drives the team. It was very brave and a great, just something that I'm sure has pushed them on to stick another year in Division 3. It's my moment.
Super stuff. Look, every dog has a day in the sun, I suppose. Lads, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is sponsored by Retrowear.com. Use my promo code JMACPodcast to get 15% off on their website. And as you can see, John wearing his lovely Wicklow jersey, and Kevin with the lovely Antrim jersey in the background. Kevin, John, thanks a million.
Cheers.
Thanks, John.